Welcome to Amazing African Spotlight, where we bring you the most inspiring and game-changing stories of African entrepreneurs, innovators, and change makers. I am Temidayo Christy Efumi, and I'm your host on this storytelling series. Now, imagine starting your day being riddled with suicidal ideation and planning your own exit from God's green earth. But after attending a job interview at an organization, you decided that your life has a whole lot more to offer. It sounds incredible, right? Well, our guest today is leading an organization that is not just transforming lives in more ways than this, but also transforming businesses and cities. Our guest today is Jesudamilare Adesegun-David, the incredible mind behind Ennovate Lab. Ennovate Lab is a mission-driven organization that has been committed for the last 7 years to the transformation of the city of Ogbomoso in Oyo State, Nigeria. Ennovate Lab has been leveraging technology, entrepreneurship, and placemaking to transform this community and improve the digital economy of this particular city of Ogbomoso. So in this interview, we are going to deep dive into the exact moment JD knew he had to take action, the challenges he overcame, the changing lessons you can apply to your own journey. And trust me, you won't want to miss the surprising twist in the story. It's quite interesting. I can tell you that for sure. If you love hearing real stories of Africans making a difference, hit the like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode. And let us know in the comments, what's your dream career or business idea? We might just feature a guest to help you on your journey on our next episode. So stick around, and I promise it to be worth your while. All right, let's jump in. Hi, Mr. JD. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Temidayo. It's such a joy to be here. I'm so glad, actually.
Thank you so much. So, first question, who are you in one sentence?
Well, I would say I'm a man of many parts. I'm a thought alchemist. I'm a community transformation strategist, and I'm a builder of people and a builder of places.
Interesting. Okay, so I would like you to break that down further. Maybe by painting a scenario. So if someone were to make a movie about your life, what would the title be? And maybe just give us like a should I say a trailer description, of what that movie will look like,
Yeah. So I mean, like it will most likely be JD, a builder of people and a builder of places, a builder of cities. I would say that if we were looking back on my life, maybe in some decades' time, it will be that here was this man who, by building people, was able to transform the cities of the earth into places that advance human flourishing.
Okay. I know you've had quite a journey. You've done made a whole lot of impact, done a whole lot of projects, done so many amazing things. So what one sentence would you use to describe your journey so far?
One sentence that describes my impact so far?
Yes, your impact, your journey so far. Yes.
I would say that I've been able to give people new frameworks for living and for doing life. I feel like that's why I started by saying I'm a thought alchemist. An alchemist is someone who, in the olden days, was a person who purported to turn base metals to gold, right? So when I say I'm a thought alchemist, it is that I'm able to turn your thinking patterns, your thinking frameworks, your mental models from, like base mental models to actually like transformative ones. I'm able to basically help you move from a place where you don't have the right definitions for life to having the right definitions to build your life and to build the things you want to build. So, I think that's it in a bit of a sense. Now, it's a very difficult task you're giving to me because to try to compress all of these things into one statement, it's actually a very difficult task.
Okay. I understand that. You can feel free to expand a little bit, but not too much, But
Yeah.
would just love to understand a bit more into what made you who you are and what made you decide to do what you're currently doing. So that's the whole idea. So
Okay.
that takes me to my next question. So maybe you can expand a bit more on how you came about, Ennovate Lab and everything that has come forth from Ennovate Lab. So what was your life before this journey began? And, when was the exact moment you knew you had to start Innovate Lab?
My life before this was more of, I was a missionary, right? I was working in the university campus of Lautech in Ogbomoso. But basically, I realized that in trying to build out a formidable solution to the challenges of the youth, like you had to build out for the entire spectrum, right? You could develop the spiritual lives of people, but at the same time, you have to give like more than that to get people to live a well-rounded life. And I discovered again that uh, the city I live, Ogbomoso, was quite underserved in terms of like the commitment of people to this place, in terms of the kind of businesses that were being built here, in terms of the kind of thinking patterns that were being that were driving things here. And so there was this time in my life where I felt like I felt called on this mission of actually like building out a prototype, a model, right, that could be shipped into other underserved communities across Africa. I felt like we could design and develop something that speaks to the entire human, that speaks to their development, that speaks to their mental development, professional development, that speaks to their economic development, and which not only touches on an individual, but affects the entire community, where an entire community can flourish rather than live in retrogression and all of that. So the idea that we could build a pattern, a playbook that others could use across the world, across the nations of Africa, was a big motivation to switch from what I was doing before into what I'm doing now.
This is really amazing. Okay, before I actually, a question came to mind just now that is even
Yeah.
out of my planned questions, but
Yeah.
I asked one earlier. When was the, or what was the exact moment you knew you had to start Innovate Lab? Was there any, was it an eureka moment? You just knew that maybe that light bulb just, came on and you felt, now I have to put this out there and, start creating a playbook for everybody else to follow. Was there any significant event, yeah, that led to this?
Yeah, I mean, this was in 2016, basically, and 2016 into 2017. I feel like I can't dissociate my faith from the work I do, right? Because
Yeah.
that's where the real inflection point came from, right? I felt this sense of mission in 2016, where it was like I was being told that I needed to actually start a company towards this end, right? And at first, that was quite uncomfortable territory for me. So it took me a few months before I finally accepted to actually build out the business. So 2016 December was when I had that first sense of instruction, like go ahead and build this. And it took me about 4 months, 5 months before I actually embraced that. And then Innovate Lab was founded in November 2017. So yeah.
Okay. Um, Maybe a quick a quick lesson to anybody who might be listening. Sometimes to do great things, it can be quite tough. It sounds interesting, looks nice that you just want to create impact, you want to change the world, but even when the idea comes to you through whatever means, whether God inspired, whether you just saw a problem that you wanted to solve, it doesn't make it any easier to start and to sustain.
Mhm.
So I think this is a real story of how this happened, and you can check out Innovate Lab. They're really doing great things, right? So many amazing things, and you would know that although it didn't start as easy, well, it's going much better right now. And we are going to actually deep dive into the details of how you were able to stay through for 7 whole years, and within 7 years, how you're able to achieve all the things that you've achieved so far. But before I continue, I had a question that just came to mind. I feel like a lot of people might want to know. Last year we interviewed somebody on Amazing Africans who is currently transforming the educational system of communities, rural communities, right? I know it's noble, it's kind of noble to try to focus on the rural, communities, rural cities that are, that are in quotes forgotten that most people do not know about. But it's not always easy, right? So I would like to ask, why Ogbomoso? You have so many potential. I know you before now. So for anybody listening, I actually know him. And but you decided to start from Ogbomoso. You decided to start building from Ogbomoso. Is it that it's a virgin land, so that's a lot of potential to explore, and other places like Lagos or bigger cities have already been explored? Or what was that? What was the reason? Why did you choose Ogbomoso?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very great question. So just as you mentioned, I could have been anywhere in the world if I had wanted to build out from anywhere. But Ogbomoso first, because there is a concept that I've been advocating in more significant ways right now, and it's called place anchored leadership, or leadership anchored to place over long periods of time. I feel like the prospect of transformation for a country like Nigeria or other countries of Africa would necessitate certain individuals anchoring their leadership, their visionary leadership, to certain places over long periods of time. Ogbomoso was not anywhere on my radar, if I were to choose where to live. But I was to school in the US, so I'd gained admission with a scholarship to school in the US to study pre-medicine, back then. But I didn't get my visa the first and second time. So while my parents and I were still figuring out, okay, should I reapply, or should I, apply to another country? I mean, to school in another country. The idea was, oh wow, like your sister is in Lautech, Ogbomoso. Why don't you just, write the jump, and let's just do that as an interim arrangement. So I did the jump, and then I got admitted to Lautech. And while I got admitted to Lautech, I don't know why, but suddenly the desire to school abroad just kind of like fizzled out. It just faded away. And I just remained in Ogbomoso. And now I need to go a step back as well. There's an organization in Ibadan called Educare Trust. So Educare Trust are kind of like introduced me to the idea of community advocacy and, like the equipping of underserved young people. So I had gone in as a volunteer in the library section of Educare, and then I'd come out of that journey in Educare very assured, very confident in my capabilities. I started writing poetry that was published in anthologies outside the country, and I was doing all of that. And this was just a young man who was not too sure of himself before he went through those doors. And so the idea of community centers, and then at the same time, when I got to Ogbomoso, and like I schooled there, right? And then again, as I mentioned, my faith is very integral to virtually everything I do. I had this instruction to remain in Ogbomoso, right? To remain in Ogbomoso. So I was in Ogbomoso, and if you would remain in a place, you have to actually begin to love the place, right? So I began to cultivate love for the place. I began to look at things that others would otherwise not see. And one of the first things I saw in Ogbomoso was the people. Amazing people, right? The people that came to school in Lautech, the people that came to school in other higher institutions in the city. And then again, I discovered that Ogbomoso lent itself to a pace of life that gave you bandwidth to think, right? It wasn't so arid, so pressured and all of that. So you could spend a lot of time just, thinking and, like strategizing and all of that. So those were more like foundational basis for all of this. But again, I would say that, my faith contributed to this, where I was actually instructed to stay back here and to build out from here. So I would just say that all those pieces were kind of like what led to me remaining in Ogbomoso and building out of Ogbomoso. Yeah.
Okay. For anybody listening that probably is not from southwestern Nigeria, or not even from Nigeria at all, Ogbomoso is in Oyo State, and it's a city. It's not even the capital city, right? It's a city in Oyo State, Nigeria, and I think up until Ennovate Lab, Ogbomoso was not even as known, trust me, because I know the place. I've been there. I schooled there as well. And many times people, when I tell people, even people from southwestern Nigeria, they rarely know what Ogbomoso is. But right now, I can tell you that it's a different story. Ogbomoso is basically on the map. And Ennovate Lab and Mr. JD had so much to do with that. So, so this is, I think this is like an encouragement.
Yeah.
You can actually transform places. This is like a true life transformation that we are seeing and hearing about today. And nothing is actually impossible. It gives me a lot of hope. So, Mr. JD, if you could go back to your younger self, or if you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
So I'll just be like, Marshall, like steward or direct all your strength in the direction of what your life's vision is about. Like, if I would say arrive at clarity about your life vision as early as possible, and then marshal all your strength towards it. Then trust the power of compounding. Compounding is a little known concept as far as life is concerned. But what happens is that when you're consistent with something, in no time, you're going to find exponential results come out of that thing because you've been consistent. So Bill Gates said we underestimate what we can do in 10 years and we overestimate what we can do in 1 year. So I feel like that's something that I will keep repeating to my younger self. Like, just block out every distraction. Keep at what it is that you know you are to do. And the exponential results will speak for themselves in good time. Yeah.
Wow, that's really profound. Okay, but then people want to know, was it all rosy? And was it all
Definitely.
easy? So can you share with us maybe one or two struggles that you experienced from your early days that most people don't know about?
Yeah. Well, I would say that I grew up. So let me go back to when I was in primary school. Primary school was the first time I was awakened to what is inequality or inequity in the world. I remember that I was the best student in school, but I wasn't offered the position of the head boy. And that's because my parents were civil servants, right? They were working with the government. And at that point, it was a period in Nigeria's history, we were still under the military government. And so there was little to no viable financial support for government workers, right? And so I wasn't given the position of the head boy because my parents weren't contributing so much to the school I attended. While the person who got the head boy was because his parents, and it was very obvious. I was meant to have represented the school at a national mathematics competition. It was my teacher that came to get me on the morning of the competition to come write the exam on behalf of the school. I wasn't put on the list. So inequality kind of like became very, how do I call, like, became very, it stood out to me. And also the visa I didn't get when I wanted to, school in the US was almost because of the same thing. So I've faced the idea of not being born with a silver spoon. I've faced the challenges that could come from that, particularly in regards to opportunities. But I'm glad that those things did not hold me down. And right now, they're actually like great motivations for me to create opportunities for people who otherwise not have the opportunities. Yeah.
Wow. So just so everybody will know, I know you might not later mention it, but guys, he has traveled across the world though. Right now, he has traveled to several countries. I don't know how many, but he has definitely been to the US and several
Yeah.
other countries, both in Africa and outside of Africa. So you guys should know that there's so much hope. There's hope for
There
us,
is,
even if
there
you
is
don't come
hope. There is
from
hope.
even if you don't come from very wealthy background, you can
Yeah.
actually do a whole lot of things that will put you, right up there where you want to be. So, but let's talk a bit about Ennovate Lab and your work there. Um, what was the biggest this might not work moment during the execution phase of Ennovate Lab, and how were you able to push through it?
Yeah, so I would say that making the transition, so Ennovate Lab ideally is meant to be a social enterprise, right? Like, but we didn't have such incorporation, what's it called, pathway in Nigeria. So you either had to be a non-profit or a for-profit. So we actually moved in the direction of a for-profit. We registered as a for-profit. And when we did that, we understood that actually the kind of work we wanted to do in Ogbomoso was more of a non-profit tilting towards a social enterprise. Now, that's because the buying power of people at the time we started wasn't so significant. That's number one. Number two, the kind of things we're trying to do were new and unfamiliar. I mean, I could give you a very quick story right now. We wanted to host an innovation challenge in Lautech in 2018, and we reached out to the school and said, hey, we want to host the Lautech Innovation Challenge, but since it's a Lautech, we're naming it Lautech Innovation Challenge, we have to partner with the university. University told us that, sorry, we don't have any we don't have any platform within the university structure right now to be able to make that partnership happen. And we're like, I mean, like, we need to make this happen. So they said, okay, we're going to create an ad hoc committee on innovation to be the interface between you and us. And this was 2018. This was 27 years after the university had been founded, a university of technology. So you can imagine if the university was like that, imagine what the town itself was, right? Like in the conversations around innovation, technology as a way, startups, and all of that. But one of the things that we realized is the work we needed to do upfront was to, so if you're feeling like, let's say, if you're sand filling the ocean and you want to reclaim land to build stuff on top of it, like the Atlantic, for instance, you pour sand, truckfuls of sand into the water, and for a period of time, you might not see whether you are making progress or not. You just keep pouring in the sand until the sand finally breaks surface. I feel like that's what we're about to do for 5 years before. From our 6th year, we began to see like the tide shifting for us, right? So for 5 years, we're basically just pouring all the resources into the community, pouring and pouring and pouring. And that sometimes could be very draining, right? Where you're not getting commensurate value for all you're putting out, where you're not getting the recognition, and all of that. But we felt it was a trade-off we needed to do in the short term for the longer term picture that we're pursuing. So yeah, there have been difficult times. There have been times when, like I remember there was a day I was virtually experiencing heart palpitations because I was thinking of how to pay salaries at the end of the month, right? So I was basically on my way home and my heart was, just racing, and I was like, nah, I didn't know this was what entrepreneurship, looked like, right? But I'm glad we are past that now and we're doing well. Yeah.
Wow. I think I really love that illustration about pouring sand into water and not seeing anything until after a period of time. So making consistent efforts. I think I read the quote from you. I might have seen it on your status or somewhere. Making an effort consistently in a particular direction until you are able to see the results. And I think that's like the basis of creating change in a place like Africa. In a place like Africa, there's so much resistance. There's so much that you have to push through, especially if you're trying to be a pioneer of something new that nobody has done before. Whether in a small city, whether in the whole country, whatever, you have to just keep pushing through until you achieve what you are set to achieve. Okay, maybe we've talked a bit about this already, but if there's anything you want to add, can you tell us about a time you felt like giving up but didn't?
Well, I would say that I don't know. I tell people like, I look very gentle on the face, but I have a spine of steel, right? I keep saying that from time to time. Like, I think there is a doggedness built into me. And maybe because I always take the long-term view of things, I actually find myself not thinking in 1 year timelines or 2 year or 10 years. I actually think 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So when you think 30, 40, 50 years, you will discover that the things that seem to be insurmountable mountains look flatter when you think of them from longer time durations. Like, if this thing does not see the end of me, it means that, right, like I'm going to most likely overcome any other variation of it that comes up in the future. So there is that. Then again, I want to say that I have a community around me that helps me to put things in perspective. And I feel that that's very essential for entrepreneurs, particularly if you're doing work in places that are difficult. You need a community, a circle of people that keep encouraging you, that keep inspiring you, that keep supporting you, that are able to tell you that, go sleep, right? We're going to try to make things happen before you wake up, So my wife is someone I have to thank for that. She's been an amazing support system in ensuring that, I have not crashed, over the course of years. I mean, like, sincerely, she has seen the heights and the lowest of my experience, and then she's like, hey, it's fine, like, God is with you. It's, like, he's not going to leave you and all of that. And then I want to thank people like mentors like Remy Odusi. She's been amazing, right? She's always, letting me know that, hey, even though I'm not with you there, you can be sure that I'm rooting for you, right? You can let me know if you have any questions. And so the communities of people around me, my parents as well. My parents have been priceless in how they've supported me. My parents have been priceless in how they've supported me. So I would say that the people around me have not made me arrive at that point where I actually felt like giving up. Definitely, there have been difficulties that made me feel like I need a break, but it wasn't like I'm giving up and walking away, right? So yeah, so I would think that that's been my experience so far.
Wow. So most importantly, community and mentorship is so crucial in order to be able to do this thing called creating impact or making a change. Okay, yeah. So what's the craziest or boldest risk that you've ever taken, and did it pay off?
Okay. Well, I think I might want to speak about something we're doing right now. It might seem like a risk. So we're building. Maybe this is the first time I'm saying this publicly. So yeah, so Amazing African Spotlight, you get the chance to be the first where people hear this. So we're building the biggest innovation park in Ogbomoso right now. It's an amazing project. It's an amazing but expensive project, quite expensive. And we've had questions that, why are you sinking this much resources into a space like this? Like, are you sure Ogbomoso can sustain this? I would say this is a risk, but again, as I've said it, when you think in longer time horizons and longer timelines, you realize that you are going to, you've reduced the risk to the barest minimum. Risk is much more acute when you're thinking in short time frames. But over longer time frames, like, risk reduces immensely. If we look back to what Ogbomoso was when we started Ennovate Lab and what it is now, people can't believe it is what it is now. I mean, thank you, Tim Dale, for mentioning. I've told us this across the world. And anytime I talk about Ogbomoso, people say they want to take the next flight to Ogbomoso. I do not kid you. I'm actually... And they say they won't actually come. And we've had people from Germany, from the US, from South Africa, from different places actually come to Ogbomoso. In fact, we are having summer interns from the US now. Like, there are some interns that will be coming in from the US for their summer internships. And it could not have been thought to be possible 7 years ago. So imagine now we're looking at 10 years. Imagine us looking at 10 years time now, right? Like, the idea of what 10 years can now look like, right? So it reduces what we consider to be risk. So I'm just so excited at the prospect of it. And yeah, I feel like we'll begin to see people migrating to Ogbomoso as soon as we launch that park.
I'm really excited to hear this. Okay, because of time, we have a few more questions to go, and I want to keep this as concise as possible. So, what's the single best decision that you've made for your business or your career as an entrepreneur?
All right, for my business, I would say that one of the best decisions has been to work with homegrown talent. Um, Ennovate Lab has basically built people on the
I
go,
can.
right? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes.
All right. So Ennovate Lab has basically built people on the go, right? So one of the best decisions has been to work with homegrown talents to see people in the community and to kind of like train them and equip them to become people that now drive leadership positions at the company. So it's always amazing to see these people. And when they even leave, it's so joyful to see the exciting things they do where they go. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. But what's one mistake that you felt initially was a mistake, but turned out to be a blessing in disguise? Is there
Um,
anything like that?
if I could think about that, okay, so this it doesn't feel like a mistake because it was intentional, but I need to share it. When we started out, we did most of our projects with a city-wide view. So we would have events and we'll brand it with the name of the city or with the name. So people were asking us questions. Why are you not publicizing yourself? And we're like, if the city gets on the map, all of us will benefit. Right. So at first it felt like, I mean, that's counterintuitive. Like, why would you do that? Like, promote yourself, talk about yourself. But right now, we see the benefits of that. So we've done a lot of promoting of Ogbomoso. We have kept talking about Ogbomoso everywhere we go. And now, as more people put their spotlight on Ogbomoso, they find us as those that they want to do business with. So it initially felt like a mistake to people, but right now it's paid off in a very great way.
One thing that I've seen that has been consistent with everybody that we've interviewed on Amazing Africans is that they had to be selfless. So for you to actually be an amazing African, creating real impact, we are not talking about things that benefit you or just your family. You have to be totally selfless. It has to be more than, it has to be beyond you. You know, it has to be about the ecosystem, your city, your community, your country, you know, and the entire continent. So can you please share your biggest aha moments that changed everything? Well, as an entrepreneur, basically.
Yeah, so I would say that there's been a number of aha moments, uh, but the biggest one was when I was speaking with someone. I spoke with two people, one in the US, one in the UK. And after sharing the story of what we are doing in Ogbomoso and how we want to scale that across Africa, both of them said, what you're doing is not only for Africa, it's actually for the world. That we have places that look exactly like Ogbomoso in our country. And we feel that the model you found can also be, deployed here and it will scale. And, when they told me that, it just sent, this boom, 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 boom. I mean, yeah. It was a real aha
Wow.
moment for me. Yeah.
Wow. And you said it at the beginning that what you set out to do is to build a playbook, and it's actually already happening right now. Everybody
It's
wants to do exactly the same thing. Wow, this is really really amazing. Okay, so if you could teach one success principle to every young African, what would it be?
So, well, one success principle. I think I could talk about. I recently did a podcast or a live stream called "Building Your Circle of Instigators." Right. I feel like every young African needs to establish themselves in a circle of instigators, like people that will keep pushing you, a community. Remember, I told you that the reason why I've not given up is because I have this.
I've lost you again. Okay.
So yeah, as I was saying, like build a circle of instigators. If you build a circle of people around you, you will go farther than you can ever imagine. At first, when you try to build a relationship, you might think it is slowing you down. Like, hey, I could move faster without having to think about other people. Let me just do my stuff. But if you have a people around you, you would not just do more quality work, you will do more enduring work, because you'll have had people who help you to polish your ideas, who push you beyond your own strength, and who show up for you when you are weak. So that's something I feel every young African needs to know that will lead to success.
No, I think I think that's okay. Community, we keep coming back to this community of a thing. I would have talked a bit more, but for time. Okay, can you tell us who inspired you the most on this journey and why?
I would say that, God is like the source of all the inspiration I've had, basically. Um, but then I mean, there are just so many people. So I don't think I can actually point to one person, right? So there's just so many people. So I'll just say God inspired me greatly, basically. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Is there any book? I know you read a lot, so I don't know if you have the answer to this as well. But was there any book or quote or lesson that completely changed your mindset at any point?
So I would say there are a series of books, right? So Praxis Labs has a lot of content that really helped to give language to a lot of the things that I already knew I was to do, but I didn't have language for them. I knew them intuitively, but no language. So Praxis Labs helped me to do that. Then I read a book by Deehock, Deehock, The Birth of the Chaotic Age. Now, Deehock actually postulated that there was a better way to build organizations. And he basically achieved that with a company called Visa, right? The financial giant. So that book also was very helpful in thinking through my idea about organizational structures and stuff like that, right? So there are quite a number of, materials. Yeah, there are quite a number of materials, but I think I should just keep it at that. Yeah, so Praxis Labs and Deehock, yeah.
Okay. Moving on very quickly, what do you think is the biggest mind shift that young Africans need to make?
So young Africans need to discover that they need to be anchored to place. Now, and this is actually very interesting, because one of the challenges of our day is that the globalization of the world has made us more restless, right? Like more restless in the sense that the boundaries of comparison has basically shifted. You're no longer thinking about people close to you as the people you compare yourself with. So you're seeing people on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and all of that. So the pressure is almost unbearable at this point, right? We're under so much pressure that sometimes our convictions are not strong enough to take us long distances, because the moment we see this person, we want to kind of like adapt our lives to that person, and then we'll see this next person, we want to adapt our lives to that person. One of the things I've seen is that those who will make the most impact are those who have built formidable, convictions on their inside. And these convictions usually come from solitude. You must practice the ability to be alone with your own thoughts. You must practice the ability to arrive at original thoughts for yourself. So you might have read everything, but withdraw and think through things very clearly. In fact, I feel one practice that has helped me is I do thinking retreats and reading retreats, where I keep my phone aside for maybe up to a week, right? Or some days, and just stay with my thoughts, so that I can arrive at something original that when I share it with the world, people will say, we've not heard it this way before. Or we've been hearing it, but it has not been as profound as this person just shared it. So that's like something very important that I feel that people need to practice more. In Africa.
Yeah. I think that's so true. The art of meditation is getting lost on us because of social media, wanting to talk all the time and express your own opinions and all of that. But as you've said, that doesn't necessarily always yield very good results. I love this next question, and I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. If your work disappeared today, what would Africa lose?
Whoa, if my work disappears today, I feel like Africa will have lost the opportunity to experience wholeness. I feel like I have an unusual gift for Africa to experience wholeness where you don't have to choose between two good things. I feel like I have been able to help a lot of people realize they don't have to live an either or life, right? It's an and life. You don't have to be either successful or build a great family. You can actually eat your cake and have it. It's something that I have been speaking about, and I've been helping people like get the mental models to think through this. So if my work disappears, I feel like that would be a gaping hole that might be difficult for any other person to fill.
Okay, still speaking of Africa, how does your work currently contribute to shaping the future of Africa?
Oh, thank you for that question. Right now, we have requests from different cities across Africa to get the blueprints that we are using to build Ennovate Lab. In fact, we're starting a program very soon. It's called the Place Collective. It's for people who feel they have been sent to specific locations, cities, towns across Africa. We want to basically like equip them with the principles we have tested over the past 7 years. And the reason why we are very confident that this playbook works is because we didn't just stumble on these things. We started out from the beginning, like with the knowledge that we needed to come up with a playbook. So we took the learning process very serious. It wasn't like we just stumbled on it. So the aha moment I shared earlier was when I discovered that it was even beyond Africa. It was also for the globe. For all the while, we've known that what we are building will work across Africa. Right now, we have a list of 305 cities across Africa that we want to actually export this playbook to right now. So it's an amazing thing, and we're so excited for the work ahead of us. Yeah.
Wow. Piggybacking on that, what's your boldest vision for Africa in the next 10 years?
My boldest vision is that the secondary cities of Africa would have become recognized as indispensable to the flourishing of the African continent. I believe so strongly that Africa's economic independence will come from attention being paid to Africa's secondary cities. And I'm very certain that our work will have been very instrumental in directing the attention of governments across Africa and partners globally, the World Bank and all other partners, to actually see that not paying attention to secondary cities in Africa is we shooting ourselves in the foot. In fact, Inyaboyeji was at a summit we held earlier this year, Ogbomoso Digital Economy Summit, and he said the next 10 years are for secondary cities in Africa, right? And basically, our work also has been a very strong contributor to that conclusion he came to. So we're so excited about that. Yeah.
Wow, this is really, really amazing. Thank you so much, sir, for really sharing this. But not just for sharing, for the work you are actually doing. For walking the talk. Just a couple of questions to go. How can people be part of your mission or support what you do in Ogbomoso, in Ennovate Lab?
Great, thank you so much. So the first thing is we're working right now to create 4,000 jobs within the next 5 years, and the 4,000 jobs will be jobs that bring in at least that pay at least $500 per person. So basically, we want to create a $2 million annual income flow for at least 4,000 people right now. So we have people who are virtual assistants, people who are UI UX designers. I mean, people with tech skills across the board. So we're seeking partnerships with organizations, both local and global, to scale the training exercises we've been doing to get these 4,000 people ready to work. And then those we have trained already, we're looking forward to being able to place them in jobs globally and locally. So that's one thing we're seeking for partnerships for. Number two is that so right now we have some fellowship programs running. Oluchi Only Binde Fellowship, we've trained about 110 people through that program. where we teach them skills. So basically, Shoni Binde, the founder of Budget, co-founder of Budget, like endowed a fund to train these talents in Ogbomoso. So we are open to such partnerships where individuals who want to do good work endow funds, right, that we use to train these talents, right? So another one right now is we are beginning to work on building a city fund. So one thing we've discovered over the years is that while we have thematic funds, while we have entrepreneur focused funds or startup focused funds, we hardly have city funds in Africa. So what it means is that a pool of funds that are committed to a city. So we're trying to build out Ogbomoso Enterprise Fund, right? Starting with about $1 million at first, and then scaling that to $10 million as time goes on. So if from listening to me, you've seen the power of what we are doing and what this model can actually achieve across Africa, then we are open to discussing around, writing checks towards that fund, right? And so you can find us at ennovatelab.com, on LinkedIn, Ennovate Lab, ENNOVATE, then lab. Thank you so much. Yeah, so you can find us there. You can send us an email at hello@ennovatelab.com, and I'll be glad to actually take these conversations further. Thank you.
Awesome. Can you tell us about an award or recognition you're proud of and why it meant so much to you? Whether for Ennovate Lab or for you personally.
Okay. Yeah. So I got an award so that's the interesting thing. I do actually put a lot of these things in my head, but I got a national award for my leadership and the work I do. That was 2 years ago. It was convened by, I've forgotten, the organization in Lagos. But the idea was they were seeking to recognize leaders that had selflessly served their communities. And I was nominated. I mean, like it was just like a nomination, and then people had to vote. And then I was voted, to receive that award. For me, I've been someone who has really more like stayed out of the spotlight. But that award was actually a very surprising one, and something I just felt like that's a way to validate the work we do, even without us having to lobby for these things. Yeah.
Awesome. So for everybody listening, not only are they doing amazing things at Ennovate Lab and Mr. JD himself, but they've actually been recognized on several platforms, for this work. So I already had one or two ideas, when you talked about how people can support you. So if you have an idea or you have something, a way to support the work at Ennovate Lab, you'll be doing something really, really great, by taking that step. Final notes. What's the best way for people to connect with you or follow your journey?
So I think you can find me on Telegram, t.me/lead-with-JD. t.me/lead-with-JD. And I mean, but again, Ennovate Lab's website is there, Ennovate Lab on LinkedIn. You can follow us there. But for me, you can as well follow me because, exactly. Thank you for that. So t.me/lead-with-JD is you can easily follow my thoughts and, the work I do.
Okay. So guys, you can also follow him across social media platforms. This is his name, Jesudamilare Adesegun-David. LinkedIn, Connect, Instagram. I'm not sure if you have a YouTube channel yet, but probably for Lead with JD.
Yeah, Lead with JD. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. This was a really amazing session. I wish you could go on and on, but the time. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. It's been an incredible conversation, and Mr. JD has shared so many golden nuggets of wisdom. From I think one or two things that I picked from here was, number one, trust the power of compounding. Don't stop. Do a little more, a little here and a little there, and then be consistent in what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, even if you're not getting recognition. It's so important. Don't wait for people to applaud you, before you put in more effort. Just keep doing it, and one day you will see the power of the that compounding effort. So I want you to share in the comments what part of the today's conversation resonated with you the most, so that we can keep the discussion going. And if you want to follow Mr. JD's journey, like we said earlier, you can connect with him across all social media platforms under the name Jesudamilare Adesegun-David, and you can check out his work at www.innovatelab.com. If you love this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an inspiring story. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it, right? Please, let's keep the word going, right? Let everybody know that there are people doing really amazing things in Africa. And on the next episode, we have another powerful guest who is making an exciting impact on the African continent. Trust me, you wouldn't want to miss this, right? So until next time, keep making impact and transforming the African continent for good, and see you in the next episode.